wired? Hopefully I will get there sooner rather than later. So I have to apologize. I missed the memo. You see, last week Scott didn't do a PowerPoint, but they had, the worship team, and so this week I missed the memo. So I did a PowerPoint, but there was no slides. So I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page next week in order to kind of model primitive Christianity. We'll be worshiping in Shasta Caverns. It's the closest that we could find to a catacomb. So BYOL, bring your own light, okay? So, and I'm assuming everybody knows that's a joke because we've already had announcements. Let's go ahead and go to God in prayer. Most holy God in heaven, we thank you for your love, your mercy, and your kindness that you bestow upon us so freely in Jesus Christ. Father, we confess to you today that it is just hard at times to love the extravagant way that Jesus loved. And so, Father, may we ask you collectively for forgiveness when our hearts are not as big as yours. Father, help us to love when we find that our hearts are a couple sizes too small. In Jesus' name we pray. You ever run across one of these guys? A Grinch in the flesh? A person who seems very unconcerned with showing love toward his fellow man? A person who doesn't mind telling you who number one is, and he makes it very clear that you are not that guy. A bah humbug person, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days, and occasionally 66 a year. Perhaps we know some of them. And honestly, perhaps at times we have been one of them. And so a question I have that we'll kind of talk about a little bit today is, what is it that makes a Grinch a Grinch? Well, in the story of how the Grinch stole Christmas, we knew what the Grinch's problem was. We're told by the great philosopher Dr. Seuss that the Grinch's heart was 2 sizes too small. In the famous story, the reason that the Grinch stole Christmas and hated Christmas, he just wanted to rain on the parade of all the residents of Whoville. We find that the Grinch's problem, much like many Grinches today, it was a problem of the heart. The heart is just too small. And so a question that I want us to ask ourselves today as Christian people is, how do we avoid becoming Grinches? What is it about the human heart that makes it hard for us at times to love our enemies? Jesus says this in Matthew 5:43-48. You have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. And now, Jesus' words here speak to something that is very deep-seated in the human condition. Namely, it's far easier for us to love those who are close to us. And we get that. Our neighbors, our families, those who root for our sports team, members of our own political party and sexual orientation. It's easier to love people that are like us, that think like us, that like the same foods that we do, like original recipe chicken and not the extra fried chicken. There's lots of things that we do that makes it easier for us to love people that are just like us. And it's hard to love those we consider to be our enemies. But Jesus teaches on the Sermon on the Mount that God's example of love towards humanity extends far beyond showing love, grace, and mercy just to people that we consider to be loved, people that we consider to be our neighbors. It says that the sun shines on the evil and good alike. The world would be topsy-turvy if the sun just decided to shine only on those who were good, only on those who did what God wanted, and everybody else lived in a perpetual eclipse. You would be walking through the mall, and some people would just be in blackness around them. Other people would have a nice halo, and the sun just following them around. But God does not show love that way. God shows love to those who follow Him and love Him, and to those that might even overtly say to God, God, I hate you. You are my enemy. Everybody benefits from divine favor. The rain falls on the just and the unjust alike. And so Jesus is teaching us a lesson, I imagine, that is just as hard for us to incorporate as it was for Christians to incorporate in the first century, and I can only imagine for any century for that matter. It's hard for us to love our enemies. Something that God has been doing at least since the fall of mankind. So before we ask ourselves, what can we do or what can be known that makes it easier to love our enemies, let's start by asking ourselves an equally important question. What attitudes of the heart make it hard for us to love our enemies? Sometimes we need to know things that maybe we're doing wrong or thoughts that we're thinking that are wrong before we can get to a point where we start thinking correctly. What is it about the human heart and the human mind that makes it hard for us to love our enemies? And when I ask this question, I can't help but think of the Pharisees. But I imagine if you were to go up to a Pharisee in the first century and you were really to ask them honestly, do you love God? I can only imagine that they would say, of course I love God. I love God with all my heart. Or maybe a more honest one would say, I really love God, but I really struggle sometimes to do what God wants me to do. But as we know from the Gospels, even though the Pharisees claimed love for God, they had a very difficult time extending love, kindness, and understanding to those who thought and behaved differently than they did. Many of them equated love of God with right knowledge and teaching about God. And so Jesus says this about the Pharisees in Matthew 23 through 24. Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You give a tenth of your spices, mint, dill, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat, but you swallow the camel. Jesus throws out a heavy word against the Pharisee that very often gets used against Christians today. He calls them hypocrites. And if I were to ask what makes a hypocrite, I guess a working definition that a lot of folks know is that if you say you believe in one thing, but the way you think, feel, and behave betrays what you claim to believe in, it makes you a hypocrite. Here Jesus says that the Pharisees, they tithed their spices. They were doing that, and they were doing it correctly. The law commanded to tithe a tenth. And why did the Pharisees do this? Well, I imagine the reason they did it is because it was commanded. They wanted to do what God wanted them to do. They did it because God told them to do it, because they wanted to live right. So in and of itself, I don't see any hypocrisy there. They were doing what God wanted them to do, but where does the hypocrisy start to sink in? I believe it's because they became selective about which laws they were willing to obey to do right by God and which ones they were either ignorant of or not willing to obey. It's easy to show that you're being right by tithing. People can see that. They can respect it. Just like people can see church attendance. If you have your name attached to a pew, you've made it, right? People can see when you've been at church. They can see if you put money in when the collection tray goes by. But the Pharisees, they were neglecting the more important matters. The justice, the mercy, the faithfulness, the meat and potatoes of it all. And so they were missing out something that was more important than just their giving, which is showing love, kindness, extending God's compassion to the world. And so I really believe that one of the biggest temptations that God-fearing people can give into is they equate their understanding of God's decrees and scriptures is the right way to know God. And that in and of itself isn't wrong. I think nobody goes out and says, you know what, in order to love God today, I am going to embrace as much doctrinal falsehood as I can because I know God loves that. Does anybody go out there and do that? I don't think so. The problem comes in when we begin to hate those who don't measure up to our notion of rightness. We desire so much to be right and understand right that sometimes we begin to hate, question motives, demonize, despise, loathe, and fear people that don't do things the way that we do things. We can become 100% convinced in our minds that we are loved by God, maybe solely because we think and do God things in godly ways. And those that don't do things in godly ways, we not only just don't like, we just despise. We fear them. And I think that it's a unique sin to religious people. That Phariseeism, to see that sin is a sin, Phariseeism is that all God-fearing Christians need to avoid. And I suppose more specifically, that sin is to be labeled as we claim to love God because of the things we know and do, but spiritually, our hearts are Grinch-like. A couple sizes too small towards others in the world. We become Grinches, and we can easily, if we're not careful, become hypocrites. And so the next question is, how do we prevent our hearts from becoming a size or two too small? How do we avoid becoming spiritual Grinches? Jesus shares this story in Luke 36-50, but I think that we can definitely learn from it. When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that town who had lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, so he came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. She wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, if this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner. Jesus answered him, Simon, I have something to tell you. Tell me, teacher, he said. 2 people owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he forgave the debts of both. Now which of them will love him more? Simon, that's not Simon, that's the Grinch. Simon replied, I suppose the one who had the bigger debt forgiven. You have judged correctly, Jesus said. Then he turned toward the woman and said to Simon, do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman from the time I entered has not stopped kissing my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, as her great love is shown. But whoever has been forgiven little loves little. Then Jesus said to her, your sins are forgiven. The other guests began to say amongst themselves, who is this who even forgives sins? Jesus said to the woman, your faith has saved you. Go in peace. In this story, Simon, the Pharisee, was blind to something that was essentially important. Something that, if we're not careful, perpetually makes it so that our hearts are always going to be a little bit too small towards those in the world. He knew, just like Jesus knew, that this woman had lived a sinful life. And likely he knew, if this woman had some notoriety in the community, what the specific nature of her sin was. But what he didn't know, or what he didn't acknowledge in this story, is key to making our hearts a little bigger. didn't seem to acknowledge or realize in this story that he was a sinner too. He owed a debt to God. The judgmental attitude that he had towards the sins of this woman was blinding him to his own sins. His attitude of superiority over this woman. His skepticism of who Jesus was because he allowed a sinner to touch him. I mean, what prophet would let a sinner touch him? Come on, Jesus. Another example of this is seen in Luke 18, 9-14. To some who are confident of their own righteousness and look down on everyone else, Jesus told this parable. 2 men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, I thank you that I am not like other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week and give a tenth of all I get. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He would not even look up to heaven, but beat his breast and said, God, have mercy on me, a sinner. I tell you that this man, rather than the other, went home justified before God. For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. And so what's the problem of Simon and the Pharisee and the other parable? I think that they engage in an attitude that is very common, and I think that all of us at times may fall into this. When you mess up against your partner, your friend, a co-worker, we always want forgiveness, don't we? Because when we ask for forgiveness, we sort of acknowledge, well, we really weren't at our best at that moment. But it's a lot harder when we're called to share forgiveness with others, because very likely when we think of people that aren't on our level or don't do things the way God does them, which we often equate with the way we do things, we want to judge ourselves. We want others to judge us when we're at our absolute best, when we're wearing our spiritual Sunday clothes, so to speak. The ones that are holy but not holy, not patchwork holy. But when we judge others, we always judge them when they're at their worst. And why do we do that? I sometimes think that we do it because we don't know that we are in the same boat as any sin. That we struggle with sin. That because of our sinfulness and brokenness, Jesus also needed to die. It's not just for the other sinners, the big sinners, the murderers, the people that really are into things that are bad, that Jesus died. He died for all of us, for the brokenness of all humanity. For Simon the Pharisee's sin, for John the Baptist's sin, and he was a pretty good guy. For all of our sins, we are in the same boat as everybody else. And so another important thing that we can realize to really how do we love? How do we grow our love for God? How do we grow our love for our neighbors? And how importantly do we grow our love for our enemies? We realize in humility that we are all more alike than we want to realize. It says this in Romans 5:6-11. You see, at just the right time, when we were still powerless, Christ died for the ungodly. Very rarely will anyone die for a righteous person, though for a good person, someone might actually dare die. But God demonstrates His own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Not while some of us were, and others of us were doing a pretty good job on our own. While we all were still sinners, Christ died for us. Since we have now been justified by His blood, how much more shall we be saved from God's wrath through Him? For if, while we were God's enemies, it doesn't even say frenemies, does it? It says enemies. We were reconciled to God, reconciled to Him through the death of His Son. How much more, having been reconciled, shall we be saved through His life? Not only is this so, but we also boast in God through our Lord Jesus Christ, with whom we have now received reconciliation. Paul says something here broken. We don't measure up to the perfection that God wants for us, that we see manifested in the life of Jesus. God did not send His Son into the world just to die for those who just needed a little extra forgiveness, or for the worst kind of sinners. God sent Jesus into the world because all humanity is sinful, broken, and flawed. All of humanity had a heart that was two sizes at least too small. And so how do we love in greater measure? I think we can learn a lesson from what happened to the Grinch. So in the book, or in the one that I kind of knew, the famous TV show that came out, I think, in 1967. How many of you guys remember that? It's still a classic. And how the Grinch stole Christmas. The Grinch had that serious grudge against Christmas. And we really don't know why, but we just knew that he hated it. And so he decides to ruin Christmas for all the residents of Whoville. He ransacked their homes. He stole their presents and their trees, took them all up to Mount Crumpet, and was prepared to throw them off the mountain. That is when something phenomenal happened. When he was about to throw all the gifts down the mountain, he heard something. All the members of Whoville gathered in a circle, and they started singing together in solidarity. Even though the Grinch did his best to steal Christmas, one of the things that he could not quelch was the Christmas spirit in the hearts of the members of Whoville. When the Grinch saw the real spirit of Christmas, something changed. It says, and if you're familiar with the cartoon, the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. There's something about Jesus. There's something about the spirit of Christmas. And I'm not just talking about the stockings. I'm not talking about the gifts and the materialism that's associated with it. I'm talking about the Christ in Christmas. The Christ en masse, in more. The more that Jesus becomes a part of our reality, the more that we acknowledge that we are broken and that Jesus died for our sins because we didn't have that right relationship with God, that's when we start loving people in a more great way. Something similar is seen in Acts when when Peter preaches the first gospel sermon on the day of Pentecost. It says this: "Fellow Israelites, I can tell you confidently that the patriarch David died and was buried, and his tomb is here to this day. But he was a prophet and knew that God had promised him on oath that he would place one of his descendants on the throne. Seeing what was to come, he spoke of the resurrection of the Messiah, that he was not abandoned to the realm of the dead, nor did his body see decay. God has raised this Jesus to life, and we are witnesses of it. Exalted to the right hand of God, he has received from the Father the promised Holy Spirit and has poured out what you now see and hear. For David did not ascend to heaven, and yet he said, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make enemies a footstool for your feet.' Therefore, let all Israel be assured of this: God has made this Jesus, whom you crucified, both Lord and Messiah." When the people heard this, they were cut to the heart and said to Peter and the other apostles, "Brothers, what must we do?" There's something about Jesus, friends, that has a way of cutting us to the heart. In that we know, or that when we realize that Jesus is love embodied, that is that agape love of God that was present in the creation of the universe, when He created us from the dust of the earth, that love that God had is present when we see Jesus and when we read about Him in the Gospels. And when we know that love is offered to us even when we are at our very worst, even when we think we've got it all put together up here, and even when our heart sometimes struggles with Phariseeism, Jesus children and turn against him, the people that he created turn against him, what does he say? Okay, Father, I'm cutting ties this time. This just goes above the pale. No. He says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing. The story of Christianity is a story of divine love to the world. And it's something to shout about. It is. When we are at our very worst, and when we are at our worst now, when we were at our worst, and when we will be at our future worst, because maybe we haven't topped it, God will continue to love us. He continues to show kindness to us. And so the more that we come to terms with the fact that we are sinners, and that we have been shown mercy and grace by God through our Lord Jesus Christ, then I pray that it becomes easier for our hearts to become a little bit bigger toward others. Because we learn to realize we're all in the same boat. We're all in need of salvation. Unless the Lord comes again, nobody gets out of this earth alive, do they? That God has given us what we need, which is salvation. And that comes to us because in spite of the fact that we're all sinners. And so who are we to hate? Who are we to just make the decision that if you think like I do, then I'll love you. But if you don't agree with me, or you don't vote like I do, or you don't like the Giants like I do, or you're a Dodgers fan, because everybody knows, they're off, right? When we look down on others, are we really understanding that every day, every waking moment of every day, we need to breathe in God's grace? We need that salvation all the time. The message of the cross is that everybody is loved by God. For as John 3:16 states, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. Let's stand and sing.
Number 7.